If you're thinking about getting your CDL, picking the wrong school can cost you thousands of dollars, weeks of your life, and in worst cases, you can walk out less prepared and more stuck than when you walked in. Today, I'm going to show you how to find a legit CDL school, what a good program actually looks like, how shady businesses operate, what it really costs, how long it takes, and the exact checklist I'd use if I was starting from zero tomorrow. 1. Defining a good CDL school. A good CDL school does two things. It gets you legally eligible to test, and it gets you actually ready to drive professionally. And no, those are not the same thing. Since February 7th, 2022, most new CDL applicants must complete entry-level driver training through a provider listed on the FMCSA's Training Provider Registry, or the TPR. So at a minimum, there are two non-negotiables. The school has to be listed on the TPR, and it has to be ELDT compliant. But your real goal is to develop your skills, confidence, safety, and job readiness. 2. Before anything else, check the TPR. Before you tour the school, before you give them your social security number, and before you put down a deposit, go to the FMCSA's Training Provider Registry site and use Find a Provider. If they're not listed, that's a hard stop. And here's a second move most people don't do. After training, you can also use the FMCSA's Check Your Record tool to confirm your provider actually submitted your completion correctly. The FMCSA notes providers must submit certification info by midnight of the second business day after you complete training. 3. The ELDT catch. FMCSA's ELDT rule sets required topics and proficiency, but does not require a minimum number of hours for theory or behind the wheel. So 2 schools can be both legal and 1 can be a disaster. That's why you need to ask the next set of questions like your career depends on it, because it does. 4. The 10 questions that expose a CDL mill. If you remember nothing else, remember this. CDL mills rush you through paperwork, but good schools build confidence. Here are 10 questions that expose the difference fast. How many total hours is the program? How much actual seat time will I get driving? What's the student to instructor ratio on the range and road? Do you train on backing and maneuvers until proficiency? Do you train on shifting if the kind of jobs I'm looking at require it? What does a typical week look like? What endorsements do you offer training for, and what's included? What are the graduation requirements besides show up? Who are your instructors and what's their experience? What is your refund policy in writing, and what fees are non-refundable? If they dodge this question, you better protect your wallet and walk. 5. Quality signals most people miss. Here are some green flags. Transparent curriculum and schedule. You can see what you're learning and when. Modern equipment that matches what employers run. Deliberate behind-the-wheel coaching, not just take a lap. Testing prep that includes the stuff drivers actually struggle with, like backing, turns, space management, trip planning basics, and composure under pressure. Some programs also follow third-party standards like PTDI style course guidelines, often around 100 hours in the classroom and 40+ hours behind the wheel. It's not a federal requirement, but it can be helpful when benchmarking the schools that you're comparing. I'm not saying only choose that. I'm saying use standards like that as a measuring stick so you don't pay thousands for a rushed experience. 6. What CDL school really costs. Let's talk money.
I'm going to talk about money, all that
I'll take
sort of
over
stuff.
from here, Nate. You can bounce.
Because this is where people get surprised. Most CDL programs that you'll see advertised commonly fall in a broad range between $3,000 to $10,000, depending on your region and whether it's a community college, private school, or carrier sponsored. But tuition isn't the whole bill. Expect additional costs like permit and testing fees, which vary by state, DOT medical exam, drug screening, which is often required by schools and employers, a background check, sometimes, endorsement testing fees if applicable. The best move is to ask the school for a full written cost sheet with every fee itemized. If they won't put it in writing, that's your answer. 7. CDL training timeline. CDL training isn't just show up and drive a truck. Most full-time programs run several weeks. Some part-time programs can stretch even longer. So here's what you should expect. You'll be studying the CDL manual and pre-trip. You'll spend real time working range skills, and you'll have days where it feels like nothing is clicking, until suddenly it does. That's perfectly normal, and it's why sleep, consistency, and repetition matter so much during training. 8. Carrier-sponsored versus independent schools. There are 2 main paths most people choose from. The first is an independent school. This could be a community college or a private training program. The upside is more freedom to choose where you work afterward, and in some cases, broader training. The downside is you're usually paying upfront or financing the cost yourself. The second path is a carrier-sponsored, often advertised as free training. That can mean lower upfront costs and a built-in pipeline to a job. The trade-off is typically a work commitment and repayment terms if you leave early. Carrier-sponsored training can be a great path if you understand the contract. Here's the rule. If it feels like a trap, it's probably designed like one. Read the repayment terms, what happens if you get sick, don't make it through the program, and what happens if you leave. 9. Fraud and CDL myths. Yes, enforcement has been a real topic lately. Industry reporting has described crackdowns, removals, and warnings tied to non-compliant training providers and record issues. That's exactly why you need to do the TPR verification first. Now here are the biggest red flags. Red flag number 1, guaranteed job. Promises that sound too good to be true. The FTC regularly warns about job placement deception and fake opportunities. The reality is, a school can help you connect, but nobody can guarantee a specific job, pay, or route. Red flag number 2, pressure tactics. Today only, deposit now, seats are filling up so you'll lose your spot. Good schools don't need to panic sell. Red flag 3, vague training details. If they can't clearly explain seat time, instructor ratio, schedule, and outcomes, walk away. Red flag 4, weird payment routing. If they want cash-only, wire transfers, Bitcoin, or odd third-party payment instructions, protect yourself. Red flag 5, not putting policies in writing. Refunds, fees, graduation requirements, retest policies, these should all be in writing. 10, tour day checklist. When you visit, trust what you're seeing. Are the trucks maintained or held together with tape and hope? Does the range feel organized and coached or chaotic? Are students standing around waiting all day? Are instructors engaged or burnt out? Are students confident talking about what they're learning? For real, ask if you can talk to a student who's halfway through the program, not just the star graduate that they bring out for show. 11, choosing the right CDL school. The best school is the one that checks 4 boxes: legitimacy, training depth, transparency, and fit. Meaning it's compliant, thorough, upfront, and works for your situation. If a school is cheap but you don't get practice, it's expensive in a different way. But since you're already watching this, you're doing what a professional driver does: planning ahead and managing risk. Comment with any questions you have, and check out the Learning Center on driveforats.com for all the driver resources you need. Adios, jabronis.